I first want to talk about Will Johnson because just quick background story of the Arizona Cardinals draft. I planned a dinner with friends, with my wife, with the people that were with their friends like weeks ago, not knowing that it was going to land on the Friday, the second and third round of the NFL draft. And of course, I wasn't going to cancel on these people. So Will Johnson gets drafted. I'm at a dinner with some very fine, nice people. And I have to hold it in my excitement for the Will Johnson edition. And when they drafted him, I've got to be honest with you, the only thing I could think about when they drafted Will Johnson was, oh my goodness, this reminds me so much of Budda Baker and Tyrann Mathieu. Each of those guys dropped for different reasons in the NFL draft. Budda Baker, height concerns, a smaller player, wondered if his physicality was going to transfer from Washington in the Pac-12 to the physicality that is the NFL. Tyrann Mathieu clearly had real character concerns, smoking pot on campus or getting kicked out of LSU. Probably shouldn't have fell as hard as he did, but pot back then was a much bigger deal than it is now. And then you have Will Johnson, a guy with his knee concerns that he even admitted he had no idea where these things were coming from. He said he hasn't dealt with his knee in 2 years. So both of those guys fell, that being Budda Baker and Tyrann Mathieu, both secondary players, just like Will Johnson. And they were perfectly fine. The Cardinals have had a history of these types of guys working. And in the second round, it should not be held against Monty Austinfort if Will Johnson doesn't succeed. And the reasoning for that being is the upside was so high there in the second round that you had to take him. If it doesn't work out, you could say, weak draft class, second round pick, it's not going to cost you anything. It just happens. And so Will Johnson, the upside in him, reminded me a lot of the Tyrann Mathieu, Budda Baker situation, where, what was it, a decade ago, when the Arizona Cardinals drafted Tyrann Mathieu, I was a young whippersnapper saying, you got to draft this guy. You got to make it happen. Patrick Peterson played a role in that, and it was perfect for the few years that he was here. Budda Baker, he was the guy that was talked about him being a first-round pick. The Cardinals wanted to take him with their first-round pick in the draft. What happened? He fell to the second round. They got him, very similar to Will Johnson, and it's been history ever since. Will Johnson, if his knee can hold up, which I'm not a doctor, I don't know, he's going to be one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL for years to come. Combine it with the fact that he is being coached by Jonathan Gannon, who is a defensive back whisperer. That is not hyperbole. That is what he is. That's where he started off before he became a head coach years ago. Physical, big, and fits exactly what the Arizona Cardinals want to do. Jahdae Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, who ended up going to the Broncos, that fit is perfect. I love Jahdae Barron with the Broncos much more than I do the Cardinals because they already have their big physical corner in Patrick Surtain. They can move Barron into the slot and it'll be fine. Same thing with Will Johnson. The Cardinals have their slot cornerback. They've got their guy opposite aside Will Johnson in Max Melton. This team got really complete on the defensive side of the ball. Will Johnson, in my opinion, I don't give out this high of praise, and I'm happy there's a decent amount of people in the chat this morning to hear this. I'm not someone to just go out here and blow smoke and tell you how great a player is going to be. I have my slight concerns about Walter Nolan, character issues, and who knows what it's going to look like, but I just trust Monty Austinfort's drafting at this point. But Will Johnson, I think he's going to make everyone else pay in the draft for not going up and getting him, especially in the first 5 years of his career. He's someone who I believe will be a top 5 corner in the NFL for years to come because of the fit and the match made in heaven with Jonathan Gannon. Big, strong, physical corner. That's what I like to see. That's what I wanted to see. So moving on from Will Johnson, it's come to the point where you have to ask yourself, what's the ceiling for this defense? Because this defensive line went from being the worst in the NFL, at least in my opinion, to nothing but dudes. I was one of the few people that was really frustrated when Roy Lopez left this team. Or Bilal Nichols, who was injured and people were saying to get rid of him, or Justin Jones. I had said, you got to keep these guys. You need depth on the defensive line. I'm not sure any of those three guys, Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, or Roy Lopez, makes this team with all these new players. The Cardinals went from having one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL to a top 12 potential defensive line in the NFL. But forget just the defensive line. Let's talk about the defense as a whole. This is a defense to me that I believe is a top 10 defense with the potential to be top 5. And again, this is why I like to give the harsh criticism so that when you come here and I give praise, you're like, oh, this guy means it. He doesn't throw this around. And so the defense, it's not just the fact the new players that they got. In fact, in the short term, in the first year, because he's a rookie cornerback, I do worry about Will Johnson just a little bit. The learning curve for cornerbacks in their early stages in the NFL, the first year, 6 weeks of the season, is a little tough. And I'll give that to him. If he's awful the first 6 of the weeks of the season, but he shows some flashes, I'm not going to go against him at all. It just takes a little bit of time with cornerbacks. It's hard from going from covering a dude who plays at Panera Bread State to Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Marvin Harrison Jr. every day. It's just tough to do that. So, defensively, because last year, the Arizona Cardinals were artificially manufacturing sacks because Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawless are just wizards defensively. This was a defensive line with Baron Browning. It didn't even have Darius Robinson for 10 weeks. It was Baron Browning, Zaven Collins, and whoever the hell they were rolling in the middle. And Jonathan Gannon still found a way with Nick Rawless to get this team manufactured artificial sacks. Now think about this. Imagine what Jonathan Gannon is going to do with the defensive line that is now filled with just solid dude after solid dude with a couple of players with the potential of being one of the better defensive lines in the NFL. Walter Nolan, a guy that, although I have some concerns about, not major, I think he's going to be fine, but concerns about him being awesome, especially right away. He's still a first-round pick. He could be the next Aaron Donald. I don't know. Probably not Aaron Donald. Somewhere in the middle, probably. But guys like that, Darius Robinson, and players like Walter Nolan and Jordan Birch. And now you look at this line. Instead of having Zaven Collins, Baron Browning, and a bunch of dudes, it's Baron Browning is a rotational piece now. Zaven Collins likely ain't starting for you. Dennis Gardeck, who someone had mentioned to me, I forget to mention, because he's not very good. He's just a fan favorite, and he's fine, especially rushing the passer on 3rd and long. He's fine. But instead of those three guys taking care of the business, Josh Sweat, Jordan Birch, Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, Walter Nolan, and I'm missing some players. It's just solid dude after solid dude, each and every person on that defensive line. And then you just look at the defensive line, you're like, okay, that problem is solved. It might not be the best, but it's slightly above average, and that is such an upgrade over god-awful like it was last year. And then you look at the rest of the Cardinals defense. Budda Baker's not going to become garbage in 1 year. Jalen Thompson is still a serviceable, very serviceable, that's putting it lightly, safety in the NFL. And then you talk about Rabbit Taylor Demerson. He might be someone that explodes this year. Garrett Williams, we know how good he is. Max Mellon, a second-year leap to continue to be a solid corner. This defense has just got dudes everywhere. Just dudes everywhere. And credit to the Arizona Cardinals for seeing the issue and attacking it and addressing it. See, I might rip at times Cardinals draft picks, and I did after they drafted Walter Nolan, who is a very solid selection, but it just felt a little conservative to me. But now the pick I have no issues with because of the totality of the draft board and how it ended up flaming out. Now I'm like, Walter Nolan, awesome. But this defense, Walter Nolan, Calais Campbell, Will Johnson, Garrett Williams, Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Rabbit Taylor Demerson, this dude just got dudes on it. Last year it was Budda Baker, Garrett Williams, and a lot of praying that the other team doesn't score 50 points. So this Cardinals defense completely revamped, and why I appreciate Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon, and why maybe some new Cardinals fans, I don't really think that's such a thing because the Cardinals haven't had a ton of success. This is why you should be thrilled that these two guys are running the show, Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort. Because before it was Bidwell, Steve Keim, and Clown Show Cliff Kingsbury, and it never worked out. And the Cardinals have set themselves up for a true make it or don't season for Kyler Murray. Now, I still have my worries, major worries about Kyler Murray, major red flags. I'm a Kyler guy. I have his jersey. I hope he works out. My job is 10 times easier if he works out and I make more money. Why the hell would I want him to fail? Kyler Murray fanboy. I hope Kyler Murray works out. But this season, with an offense that's got enough weapons and a coaching staff that we surely believe in, this defense that now is starting to look like a top 10 to 12 defense, this is a true make it or break it year for Kyler Murray. And we had this conversation last year. But the argument was, well, the defense sucks. There's nothing on this team that is going to stick out like a sore thumb from a skill standpoint. That's not the issue with this team. Kyler Murray has enough defensively, enough offensively, and surely enough from a coaching staff perspective to succeed. This is a year where Kyler not only needs to get in the playoffs, and I believe they will. I believe right now they're a 5 seed, positioning themselves to potentially take over the division and be a 4 seed, maybe a 3 seed. And then when that happens, it's not just getting into the playoffs. You have to win a game. You have to show us the progression is there. Good on the Cardinals, man. Hell of an offseason. Just a hell of an offseason. It's like that meme of like, they had us in the first half, I'm not going to lie, at the start of free agency. Free agency ended up going really well. Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson, Josh Sweat. And then on the NFL draft, it was, we're just throwing a bunch of dudes at this defensive line, and we'll add Will Johnson to the mix. It is not often that you can say it's a good time to be a Cardinals fan. That's why you come to this channel, for honest dialogue of this team. You may rejoice for the next couple of days. And then it's back to work.